He finished his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration degree, major in accounting, cum laude, from the University of the East Manila. He also completed some units in taxation and business law from the Indiana University. In 2019, he finished his Master's in Business Administration at the University of Santo Tomas Graduate School, Manila, with honors cum laude. Please welcome the Honorable Orontes D. Castro. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Agnes Manasan, the new president of UPAAT. Good evening in Toronto. Good morning in the Philippines. Esteemed guests, mga minamahal na kababayan, Madam Nora Robles, colleague in the Philippine Foreign Service, dear friends from the UPAAT, and participants. I'm pleased to introduce to you our guest of honor of excellent academic and professional achievements. His exceptional accomplishments are first place in the 1967 Philippine Bar Examinations with a Master of Laws from the Harvard University, founder and senior partner of a law firm, co-founder and youngest law dean of the biggest law school in the Philippines today, the Arellano Law School in the Philippines. Among the youngest delegate to the 1971 Philippine Constitutional Convention, author of the Ombudsman and the Miranda Doctrine in the 1972 Philippine Constitution. One of the awardees of the prestigious 10 Outstanding Young Men, or TOYM, by the Philippine JCs. In 1980, he established and led a successful business venture. Last year, our guest of honor presented his credentials to the Governor General of Canada as Philippine Ambassador. Friends, let us welcome together His Excellency Ambassador Rodolfo Dia Robles. Good evening, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Conjen Ron, our very dynamic Consul General in Toronto. Ms. Agnes Manasan, President of the UP Alumni Association of Toronto. Dr. Patrick Alcedo, our special presenter tonight. Dr. Mayro Salvador, officers and members of the UP Alumni Association of Toronto, ladies and gentlemen, mga kababayan, magandang umaga, magandang hapon, magandang gabi. I am happy to join you in this evening's presentation by Dr. Patrick Alcedo. He is today Program Director of the Department of Dance Graduate Program at York University. Allow me then to congratulate Dr. Alcedo for his many achievements as an educator, dance anthropologist, and filmmaker. I note that his film, They Call Me Docs, won Best Short Documentary at the Cannes Indies Cinema Awards. May I insert here that Dr. Alcedo has been featured in the Proudly Filipino simply because Filipinos are proud of him. It is only one of his many critically acclaimed projects, and I'm confident that we will see more of his work in the future. Allow me also to thank the UP Alumni Association of Toronto for launching the summer edition of its Culture and History Talks. I recall our very fruitful session last March when we delved into the history of tattoos, our gong culture, and the use of traditional medicines in pre-colonial Philippines. It is through venues like this that we can further enrich our knowledge on the many elements that comprise our diverse Philippine culture. We are fortunate that through the generosity of Dr. Alcedo, the UP Alumni Association of Toronto will be able to present the Culturic show embodied and embodying research through the years. The Atihan Festival, Philippine folk dance, and documentary filmmaking. Looking forward on hearing his views on the Atihan Festival as he hails from the province of Aklan. My friends, it is important to note that dance in any shape or sway has blended beautifully into our traditions as an indispensable facet of Filipino culture. It has found its way into our lives in the form of entertainment, into the style of our celebrations, into the solemnity of our prayers, and in the sanctity of our worships, as it gradually tells the story of our past, our present, and our future. As a Filipino, it is difficult for me to imagine our community gatherings in Canada or elsewhere in the world without the rhythmic sway of a dance. Of course, our ability to dance together is currently constrained by our public health situation. I am hopeful, however, that we may soon have the opportunity to take to the dance floor once again. And join everyone to make themselves comfortable wherever you may be as we embark together on this virtual journey of discovery with Dr. Alcedo. Mga kababayan, magbayanihan po tayong lahat. Maraming salamat po. Awagid nga sayma himo Dr. Alcedo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Robles, and thank you very much, Conjen Castro. So allow me please to introduce our guest speaker. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Patrick Alcedo. He is not only a colleague of mine, we are both from York University, the third largest university in Canada, but in the past 3 years have become colleagues and friends, and I'm so proud of him and the work that he's been doing. Dr. Patrick Alcedo is a dance ethnographer, a specialist on Philippine traditional dances, and a documentary filmmaker. He is an associate professor and the chair of the Department of Dance at York University. Dr. Alcedo received his PhD in dance history and theory from the University of California, Riverside, under the auspices of the Asian Cultural Council. Among Dr. Alcedo's many academic recognitions are a Rockefeller Humanities Fellowship at the Smithsonian Institution, an Early Researcher Award from the Government of Ontario, and a Selma Jean Cohen Award for International Dance Scholarship from the Fulbright Association of America. In 2019, Dr. Alcedo received York University's highest teaching award, the President's University-wide Teaching Award for the Senior Full-Time Faculty category. Dr. Alcedo's documentary films, Dancing Millennials and A Piece of Paradise, have been screened and recognized at prestigious film festivals and awards, including the Diversity in Cannes Short Film Showcase in 2019, the Hollywood International Independent Documentary Film Awards, and the annual Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. His latest film, They Call Me Ducks, a short documentary on a 15-year-old student trying to survive as a ballet dancer, recently received the 2021 Best Short Documentary from the Cannes Indie Cinema Awards. I can go on and on and on and on. Every day I see all of the posts of Patrick being recognized for his work, and I'm just so proud of him. So please welcome Dr. Patrick Alcedo. We're just gonna take a minute because we have Dr. Alcedo's recorded presentation, but he will be with us live for the Q&A, and he will be with us here. And you can also share your questions and remarks and comments in chat. But this is just to make the logistics a little bit more simpler because this is a great presentation.
Once again, I would like to thank the University of the Philippines Alumni Association of Toronto, of which I am a proud member, for organizing this event. And I also would like to respectfully acknowledge the presence of Consul General of the Philippines in Toronto, Orontes V. Castro, and of our Ambassador of the Philippines to Canada, Rodolfo D. Robles. As the title of my presentation indicates, I am deeply interested in the idea of embodiment, precisely because I am a dance ethnographer whose main method of doing research is participation and observation. My presentation today is composed of 3 sections. The first is the Atihan Festival, followed by Philippine folk dance, and ended with documentary filmmaking. These parts are cultural phenomena and research output that have fueled my work as a dance ethnographer, dance artist, Philippine studies scholar, and documentary filmmaker. In this presentation, I will demonstrate how porous their boundaries are, how elastic their bands are, and how they inform each other. What ties these sections together is my lifelong interest in social justice issues, but from the point of view of dance. In other words, I have always been deeply interested in amplifying, even celebrating and championing the ability of Filipino dancers in navigating political, social, and economic structures that control them, and in illustrating how they choreograph their identities in the Philippines and in places outside our country where they have elected to call as their second home, just like me, a Filipino born and raised in the Philippines, but is now residing in Toronto, Canada. Before I turn to the first section of my presentation, I would like to explain that as a dance ethnographer, I believe that I should disseminate my research to as many people as possible. Thus, I have decided to become a multimodal scholar. What I mean by this is I do not just produce written scholarly works, but I also direct, choreograph, and restage live performance dance practices and produce and direct documentary films. I argue that scholars of today, whose works and ways of producing knowledge have been affected by the incredible global and totalizing reach of the COVID-19 pandemic, have to seriously consider the contemporary importance of multimodal forms of scholarship. At the end of this presentation, I'm excited to inform you that I will world premiere my latest short documentary titled, Am I Being Selfish? So I hope you will stay until the end and participate in the question and answer portion, because I'd love to have a conversation with you afterwards. I want to cover as much ground as possible. I decided to create a PowerPoint presentation. So once again, this is the title of my presentation, Embodied and Embodying Research Through the Years, from the 3 sections that I mentioned. So a little bit about my own background. So I grew up in Kalibo, Aklan, and lived there and stayed there until I finished high school. Thus, I also grew up participating in the Atihan Festival. Actually, one of my earliest memories as a child is that of my mother dressing me up as a Native American Indian boy, and of my grandmother putting some soot on my face to honor the indigenous Atis, who are the putative ancestors of Filipinos, and of my father parading me around the Kalibo Plaza to dance with my late sister Lara. And after hours of dancing, we would go inside the Catholic Church to say our prayers and give thanks to Santo Niño, the Holy Child Jesus. In high school, I helped organize with my sister and her friends our own Atihan youth contingent. Thus, the Atihan is in my blood and is a marker of my not only being a Filipino, but more specifically as an Aklanan, or even more specific than that, a Kalibunhon. When I was given the opportunity to pursue my doctoral studies at the University of California in Riverside for my PhD in dance history and theory, I decided to write my dissertation on the Atihan. And out of that dissertation, I was able to produce several articles and an edited anthology and 3 documentary films. So just here, I just go through the PowerPoint presentation that I prepared. Here is a map of Panay Island, and you can see Aklan in the northwest section. And then here's Kalibo, which is the capital town of Aklan. The language is Akranon. The main source of income of Aklanons is through our agriculture and fishing, and of course tourism, because we are known for, as you most probably know, we are world renowned for Boracay Island and the Atihan Festival that happens every third Sunday of January. Here's a photo of the Atihan Festival when I did my research there in 2000, and as you can see, it's in the middle of the town, in the town plaza. To your right is the cathedral, and then you can see the green building there. It's where I did my high school, Aklan Catholic College. So right away from this design of the town, you can see that you can see right away the predominance of Roman Catholicism. Here at the Atihan is actually a modern invention. As you can see, it's a modern nomenclature because based on my research, it was actually not known as Atihan, it was known as Santo Niño. And then in the 60s, in the late 60s, it was changed to Atihan to make it more national as part of the cultural tourism project at the time. And to bring in not only Catholics but also non-Catholics into the festivities. So this was really the change of the name from Santo Niño to Atihan, which means to look like the Atis of the Negritos, is not only a modern phenomenon but also as an indication of nationalism project by the government and the response of the Kalibo, of the town of Kalibo, to participate in that nationalism effort. So here I always use this photo because again, what is imbricated or what is folded in the Atihan festivities, of course, the trappings of or the legacies of colonialism, and jeepney is a very good example of that. Because it's a product of American colonial period, and of course there's also a ubiquity of jeepneys in Kalibo and in the province of Aklan, and actually the theme song in Atihan is "Happy Days Are Here Again," which was a song that was introduced during the American colonial period. And then when I was doing my research there, what was very popular was Mambo Number 5 by Lou Bega. So it is a very nimble, it is a very adaptive festival, okay, that brings, that acknowledges the past, but at the same time is very responsive to contemporary influences or global influences. The next is, it's in honor of the Santo Niño, or the Holy Child Jesus. So typically the height of Atihan is on a Sunday, on the third Sunday. And for the first time, the entire town, after weeks of dancing, becomes quiet. Because percussive sounds are not allowed to be played during this time. And then literally the entire town goes to the church. Goes to the plaza, sorry, because we won't fit inside the church, and gather in the plaza and face the grandstand of Kalibo, where the mass is held. So here it was very interesting. Actually, I talk about it later because I decided in around maybe 2000, I went back there, and then after a couple of years, I actually did work with the indigenous aunties to participate in the Atihan. So they're actually not Catholics but Protestants. They go to a Baptist church. So I did my research on the relationship of non-Catholics into the festivity, and also from the point of view from the experience of the aunties who are actually marginalized and who are not part of the majority population, who are lowland Filipinos or Bisaya, just like myself. Just like that's how the aunties would refer to us, as the non-aunties are called Bisaya. Okay. When I started by doing my research right away, it was very clear that politics is highly part of the fabric of the Atihan. As you'll see here, Mayor Diego Luces at that point, I putting a stamp into his power and his popularity as the mayor of Calibo. So aside from it being a religious festival, at the Atihan is also a highly political event. You'd see actually national, you would see Filipinos running for Senate or for national office going to the Atihan, because then they are assured, right, of the amount of exposure that they'll get, because there will be thousands and thousands of participants in this festival, and obviously commercialization. You have Coca-Cola, you have San Miguel Beer, you have all these big multinational companies sponsoring the festival, because once again, right, it's a great moment to advertise their products. So politics, commercialization, and so on and so forth. As part of my output, I just want to bring the written text. One of my first actually output in as a scholar is this article that I'm very proud of: Sacred Camp Transgendering Faith in the Philippine Festival. And here it is. I have it here behind me. So it came out in this journal called the Journal of Southeast Asian Studies, and it is by Cambridge University Press. And I was beyond the moon when they accepted my article, Sacred Camp, because it was my first refereed article, and it's a big deal for a scholar, for a beginning scholar, emerging scholar such as myself, to be published in a refereed and highly respected journal such as this one. And it is focused on my former ballet teacher, Augusto Jangson. I fondly called him the late Augusto Jangson Tayagus. I looked at his devoutness as a Catholic. He would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to hear mass. Ballet obviously is a signifier of class. Upper middle class Aklanons, Kalibunhons would take classes with him. So his position in the Kalibo society is really front and center, right? Because of his cultural capital, right? Because of his knowledge of ballet. And what was very interesting about him was that he was an icon. He was an icon in Atihan, and as a child, we would always say, we at the Atihan would not be complete if we don't see Tayagos as a fully Bergère chorus girl. So my memories of Atihan, really, my memories are so much are highly predicated on Tayagos's transforming himself as a fully Bergère chorus girl. And then so here's Tayagos. He's also known during the Holy Week season to be the caretaker of a carol. And Mary Magdalene he was so what would I say? He was very close to Mary Magdalene and would really spend a lot of money in dressing up Mary Magdalene, in beautifying her carriage, and would be very proud to process Mary Magdalene around the town of Calibo. And I would always make sure that I actually would follow would process with Tayagus, right? So not only dance with him during the Atihan, but also process with him during the Holy Week season. And then here he is, or here he was, in his full regalia as a fully Bergère chorus girl. So you could see just the dramatic transformation. So I looked at that in the article, how he incredibly transformed himself, and I looked at that from the point of view of his faith and sacrifice, and so on and so forth. That I actually will enumerate in a second. So I just want to show once again the contrast, right, from his everyday quotidian self to his carnivalesque self, or his Atihan self. So here one of the foci, or one of the things that I looked into is the idea of the third sex, or agi. And then agi is not married to a woman, effeminate in its ways, gentle. In the West, it's called queer or gay. So here I explored or fleshed out this gender identity of Tayagus, and agi as a purveyor of beauty, as being artistic, and it's perfect for him because he was a dance teacher, and he was really into beautifying, for example, Mary Magdalene, and even designing costumes for his ballet students. So I looked at that angle, I look at that prism, if you will, or that optic in this article. And then here are my main arguments that his transformation into a fully Bergère annually was an expression of faith, it's an expression of a promise, or a panaad or panata among the Tagalog. The title is Sacred Camp because it's a paradox. It's sacred, but at the same time campy. And these are the scholars who informed me, Jonathan Smith and Susan Sontag for camp, and sacred. I used Jonathan Smith. And then, of course, Michael Bakhtin's idea of the carnivalesque, which is a special time of the year where people could be excessive and be really outside superstructures or structures that control them. So I had to anchor my arguments with scholars that I believe are very productive in fleshing out, or in furthering my arguments. And here is Tayagus inside the church, and I really like this photo because, again, the whole idea of the carnivalesque comes through. That obviously, if it's not at the Atihan, this is not going to be allowed at the church, right? But because it's at the Atihan, then the carnivalesque, or these excessive identities by an agi like Tayagus, was allowed, even welcomed by the church. So I wanted to show the specialness of the time, right? And I call that, using Bakhtin, carnivalesque. When I was doing Atihan research, I've always been troubled by the fact that the Atis are not, they do not participate in the Atihan. They're still marginalized in the Atihan. And what's so ironical is Atihan is actually a name that is centered on them. And I said, you know what, this is highly problematic. So when I went back to when I was on sabbatical as a professor, I decided to really devote my time to exploring the possibility of having a group of artists participate in the Atihan for the first time and compete, and to put them front and center. So this was the result. And actually not only was I able to produce two documentary films about their participation, but I also was able to produce another refereed article. So here it is. So it came out in this anthology, or in this edited volume, Dance Ethnography and Global Perspectives, edited by Linda Dankworth and Ann David, and it came out from Palgrave Macmillan. And the title is How Black is Black, the Artists Participate in the Atihan Festival. And the title is How Black is actually really came out of our meeting at the mayor's office, because the officer at the mayor's office said that even though they're artists, they should still blacken themselves because they're not black enough. So the idea of blackness is actually imagined and for me problematic, because if there's anybody who is Black, from the point of view of art of indigenous identity, it should be the artists who should determine that, right? So I problematize that, I question that, and of course I intervened, right, in that kind of highly problematic representation of our fellow Filipinos, right? And I want to argue that we should respect them, and we should really exert effort in making them participate in the festival, and learn from them, right? Learn from them and celebrate with them. So the name of the group was Puro Ati, and it came from the group, and they said, we are the pure Atis, and so it was not me who decided that, it was them who decided the name of Puro Ati, and unfortunately they lost, which is so funny because they competed in the indigenous category called Balik Ati, and they lost. They only, I think, received third place or honorable mention because some of the judges thought that they're not dark enough. So again, another problem that we have in terms of cultural representation, that ethnographers such as myself have to intervene. Right? So I usually intervene. Through active participation, through writing, and then through documentary films. So here's my output. I'm as I said, I'm a multimodal research. So as you can see from the photos, you have the Journal of Southeast Asian Studies, Dance Ethnography, and then another book, another book that I'm very proud of, and I had the honor of being the lead editor, is entitled Religious Festivals in Contemporary Southeast Asia, that came out, that was published by Ateneo University Press. So I also have an article here about the Atihan, and of course the 3 documentary films, Atihan Lives, Atihan Mother Philippine Festivals, and then Panay. And actually, I have a trailer of the Atihan Lives. So before I go to Philippine folk dance, let's watch this short trailer of Atihan Lives. So I go to the second section of my talk, and this is on Philippine folk dance. While growing up in Calibo, I had the good fortune of receiving excellent training in Philippine folk dance. There were Aklanons who became major dancers in some of our country's leading folk dance companies, such as the UE Folk Dance Group, the Ramon Ubusan Folkloric Dance Group, and the Bayanihan, the Philippine National Dance Company. While competing for folk dance competitions in Aklan, I received training from Omega Venus, one of Ramon Ubusan's lead dancers. And then when I went to UP Diliman for my bachelor's degree in English, I joined the Filipiniana Dance Group under the directorship of Professor Corazon Inigo. This was the stage in my life when I could say I received professional and world-class training. So my passion, my love for Philippine folk dance never died out. I teach Philippine folk dance here at York, and I'm proud to say that it's really the first time that Philippine folk dance was offered here, and I think it's folk dance is here to stay at York University, And I understand that we're the only university in Canada, at least, that offers Philippine folk dance. So my love for Philippine folk dance continued, or has continued. And in 2017, during the Canada 150 celebration, I was given the opportunity to produce and direct and co-choreograph a massive Philippine folk dance and music concert called Luz Viminda, the Philippine Dances for Canada 150. So this was quite a spectacular event, attended by, community leaders, dance luminaries, and it was packed. Yeah, it packed the theater at York University, and modesty aside, received standing ovations for the three performances that we had. So my brother Peter Alcedo, who is now the artistic director of Filipiniana, actually edited this clip, and he was also one of the lead musicians during this concert. So let's take a look at this. My interest in Philippine folk dance obviously started when I was in the Philippines growing up, and really became much more intense, or became, I think, much more really became much more professional in my approach to Philippine folk dance when I joined Filipiniana. And then when I moved to Toronto and started teaching Philippine folk dance, I realized that that this dance form is practiced by Filipino immigrants in this part of the world, and in fact, in the Greater Toronto area where I live, there are three major dance companies. So I was fortunate to get a grant to study this transnational flow of Philippine folk dance, and did research with the three groups, especially with the Cultural Philippines of Ontario. So here's a photo of the Cultural Philippines of Ontario, and then in 2018, I served as the artistic director when they participated at several international dance festivals in Spain, specifically in Murcia and Segovia. So it was a very interesting project, actually, because this group, composed of Filipino Canadians, represented both the Philippines and Canada. So this kind of binational representation is something that I'm very interested at the moment to research on, and to write about, and to produce scholarly works, and maybe even artistic works, and hopefully another film about this engagement of Filipino Canadians with Philippine folk dance. So this was us in Murcia, and then through my grant called the Social Sciences, and actually at that time it was the Early Researcher Award from the Government of Ontario. I was able to employ students from York University, undergraduate students and a graduate student. And then let's take a look at this piece that I had the honor of restaging of reconstructing, if you want to use that word, for Cultural Philippines Observatory. It's called Hota Panderetas, and their previous artistic director was the famous Eno Mezclillado of the Bayanihan. And so this was a very, very popular piece, and received really resounding applauses throughout Murcia and Segovia. So let's take a look at this piece that I enjoy so much, and I believe that this was one of the famous choreographies of our late national artist, Lucrecia Urtula. I want to end my folk dance section with this slide, because I wanted to understand how dance, specifically folk dance, which is clearly an embodied form that is so much predicated on liveliness, could survive the pandemic. And so when I saw on my Facebook feed the invitation of Ma'am Suzy Benitez, the executive director of the Bayanihan, to participate, calling the public to participate in their Sayaw online workshop, I said, "Oh wow, this is a great opportunity for me to have an experience with this famous dance company, and also to take a look at how a company such as Bayanihan actually has learned to survive and continue in spite of the pandemic." So I just wrote a little bit about that experience. So just this May 28th, the Bayanihan, the Philippines National Dance Company, culminated its first ever 2-week Sayaw dance workshop online to children and dance enthusiasts. On June 8th, I interviewed via Zoom Suzy Benitez, Bayanihan's executive director, and she stated that the online technology has made it possible for workshop participants from Manila and Cebu, and from Sydney, Australia, and Toronto, Canada, diasporic places with high concentration of Filipino immigrants, in complete opposite on the global hemisphere, with markedly different time zones. Oh my goodness, I had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning because the class in Manila was at 3 in the afternoon. And wow, I really had to make a very strong coffee to stay awake and to participate in that workshop, to come together to learn folk dances from them. That workshop made it possible for the attendees and their teachers, core members of the Bayanihan, who before the pandemic would trot the world representing the Philippines in dance festivals and competitions, to form a temporary virtual dance community. I was one of the participants of that workshop, and for me to be part of that online community, I had to, again, as I said, I had to make certain sacrifices and change my body clock, right? And learn to wake up really, really early. Although I'm a morning person, but not that early. So that quite an unforgettable, but definitely highly rewarding experience. Benitez added that synchronous learning, which she terms as flexible, cannot be on a par with dances face to face, embodying them side by side with each other and gaining tacit knowledges through the very act of dancing and making presence one's non-digital body to perform with others. Of course, I mean, nothing can replace liveliness. But I agree definitely that the body-to-body interaction is irreplaceable in transmitting an expressive culture such as dance, and the production of cross-cultural discourses for dance ethnographers such as myself is about being there, being present, participating, and observing in situ, borrowing from these scholars that I like, Sarah Davis and Melvin Kohner. I would argue, however, that due to the totalizing effect of the pandemic and its duration, the way we understand, practice, research, disseminate, and even teach dance will inevitably change. And it is changing already, right? As evidenced by this very virtual gathering that we're having at the moment. Okay, so this is a little write-up that I did to end this section. And then in the next section, which is the last section on documentary filmmaking, I will share with you trailers from my various films. So I'll be back in a second. Here's my last section called documentary filmmaking. In 2009, actually in 2008, I went back to Calibo for research, and I was really drawn to boxing. And I mean, Pacquiao was very popular at the time, and he still is. And I said, maybe I should try to box as a way of staying fit and as a way to understand what it means to do this pugilistic sport that for me is kind of a dance, because it is, if you look at boxing, it is actually structured improv. There are very limited, there's a limited number of moves that you can do, right? But in countless number of configurations. So I thought that, this is something that I could try as a dancer, as a mover. And so I was introduced to a group of boxers in Calibo, in a clan, and who actually want to become Pacquiao, and they come from underprivileged, very poor farming communities, and really want to be like Pacquiao, from rags to riches. And so I was drawn to their narrative. I was drawn to their perseverance to succeed, and out of that project, I was working with my collaborator at the time, Frutocore, and I said, why don't we do a side project aside from that, Atihan, and take a look at this, at the lives of these Aklanon boxers, and see if we could create a short docu about them. And wow, I mean, when Fruto pitched it to the New York Times, and the New York Times actually took it, and that was like phenomenal for me as a beginning documentary filmmaker. Never would I have imagined that my first ever docu-film would make it to the New York Times. So it was part of the New York Times on November 12, 2009. And if you actually, I just Googled it last night and it's still there. So I just realized like how powerful documentary film is. And from then on, I decided to really devote a lot of my attention to documentary filmmaking, and thus, all these projects that I've been doing. So my next big project after Atihan is A Piece of Paradise. It's my first ever feature length film, meaning that it's around 90 minutes, and it's a story of 3 Aklanon women who came here to Toronto as caregivers, and I followed their lives for almost 4 years actually, and traveled with them. The main character is Femme Carillo. I even went with her to, we even went with her to Hong Kong when she visited her former employers when she was working there as a domestic helper and as a kasambahay, and went back to Kalibo when she got married. So this was like a major piece. And again, modesty aside, it won back-to-back at the 2017 Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. It won Best Canadian Film and won Best First Feature Film. So really catapulted my career. This film catapulted my career as a documentary filmmaker. And let's take a look at the trailer of this feature of this documentary.
Palangga ko, tuog kaanay, at magpakabuot ka pagbaho mo. Tandai, na maski wa ako iya, palangga kagidnakon. Ag maski anong kalisod, hay akong batunon.
The next film that I wish to share with you is titled Dancing Millennials. And this film became the inspiration for my three current documentary films about the intersection of dance and class and urbanity. And Dancing Millennials made it to the Diversity in Cannes Short Film Showcase in Cannes, France in 2019. And then it received an Award of Merit at the Global Shorts in Los Angeles. And then another award of recognition from the Hollywood International Independent Documentary Award in 2018. And here's the trailer. Here's the trailer for this 20-minute documentary.
Well, lumaki ako dito. Lumaki ako sa environment na to. I mean, masaya naman ako sa buhay ko. Hindi naman ako naiinggit na maging mayaman whatsoever. Natutuwa akong galing ako sa hirap. Natutuwa ako na pinagdadaanan ko to. Kasi alam ko dito ako nag-grow. Dito ko mas nakikilala yung sarili ko. Dito ko mas nakikilala ang mundo na ginagalaw ko.
Lahat ng pwede ko ibigay sa iyo, ibibigay ko yan. Hindi ko ipagdadamot yan. Paghirapan natin together. You know? Mahirapan ka, mahirapan ako para iparating yun. Pero sabay natin gawin. Tingnan natin kung ano mangyayari.
Kung tatanungin na why ballet, honestly, ito lang kasi yung, for now, ito pa lang yung alam ko. Ito pa lang yung alam ko.
The last three films that I want to talk about are the ones that I finished this year. I have this feature-length film, which is again around 90 to 95 minutes, titled A Will to Dream. And currently, it has already received these following accolades, recognitions. Won Best Dance Feature Docu at the Silk Road Film Awards Cannes, and then it just actually won at the Hong Kong Indie Film Festival just a few days ago. And it's anchored in the life of Luther Perez, an incredibly admirable teacher who gave up his US green card and the promise of a better life in the United States, in California, where he was supposed to live, and went back to Manila to teach underprivileged, marginalized children and at-risk youth in Quezon City. So here's a trailer of this most current documentary film that I'm very proud of.
Oo. Ano yun yung... kasi ako naman, I never really wish to become rich. Kasi pwede kung ginusto ko.
You know, we have a lot of poverty in the Philippines. Pag naituro natin yung true dance, kakaroon sila ng... malalaman nila na kaya ng katawan nila eh. No? Kaya nila. Hindi ako kailangan maging poor para makapunta sa gusto kong puntahan.
This is to get them off the street. Give them something constructive. Empower them with which nangyari na rin. And yung ibang dreams na maka-abroad, maka-ibang bansa, doing what you want. So, these are little dreams, but dreams nevertheless. Hindi ba? So, yun nga yun ang sabi ko rin sa kanila, mangarap kayo unti-unti. Kasi yung unti-unti, kaya nyong abutin yun eh. Kasi yung iba akong mangarap, minsan suntok sa buwan. You know? Impossible.
And then the penultimate, or the second to the last, is They Call Me Dax. And this one is focused on Dorothy, whose nickname is Dax. That's why they call me Dax. When I first met her, I said, "Hi, sir." When you go to the Quezon City Performing Arts Dance Studio, the students would come to you, "Hello, sir," and then she came up to me, I'll never forget, and she said, "Oh, hi, sir, I'm Dorothy, but my friends call me Dax." So I said, "Okay, so this is the title of her short film, short docu. They Call Me Dax." I followed her with Alex Felipe, who was the cinematographer for these three films, and just so humbled and moved by her own story, a 15-year-old teenager who's trying to make it. She lives alone because her mom is a kasambahay in Makati. She lives alone in Novaliches and commutes for at least an hour or 2 hours even each way to take ballet classes with Luther. So yeah, quite a moving story. It's been successful in the festival circuit. Won Best Short Dance Docu at the Silk Road Film Awards Cannes, and then won Best Short Docu at the Cannes Indie Cinema Awards. So I'm very, very proud of this film, and of course, eternally and extremely grateful to Dorothy Dax for her participation and for trusting me with her life in documenting her young life, inspiring life. So and then we'll end with, as promised, we'll end with the world premiere of Am I Being Selfish? A story of an 8-minute piece, a story of John Guides, who himself is financially hard up, but insists on supporting.
Sorry, just a brief break from the surprise from the world premiere. We just wanted to entertain one of the questions from our audience. And Patrick or Dr. Alcedo is here with us. So Nini Alvaro is the Vice President of UPAAT. I think she has one question.
Oh.
Oops, I think Nini, you're still muted.
She's still muted. Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Patrick Alcedo. What a remarkable career and multifaceted life you lead, Professor Alcedo. My question is, who has inspired you in your works? The ones who have influenced you most as a dancer, choreographer, dance anthropologist, and as a filmmaker. Give a bit of background on the person and why or how.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a great question, Nini. I mean, it's really, they say it takes a community, right? It takes a community to raise a child, and I think, yeah. But if you were gonna ask me who are my early influences, I think it's my late sister Lara, who made us fall in love with dance. She was such a beautiful dancer, and since I was next to her, I would follow her everywhere. And so her teacher would say, anyway, Patrick, you're always with your sister. You might as well dance with us. So I learned how to dance with older kids from the get-go. And I fell in love with it. It was a way for me to be close to her because we were very close as siblings. And also as a way for me to celebrate my own identity as an Aklanan. So that's one. And then when I went to UP, I joined Filipiniana, and I saw how you could be so professional in your own dancing. You could bring it to that level. So that's my second. And then my teacher at UP, Steve Villaruz, who made me fall in love with dance scholarship. So I said, because I was an English teacher at UP, I was teaching English. And at the same time dancing. And I said, you know what? I don't want to teach grammar forever. I want to teach writing. I said, I really belong in dance. But I also knew that it's not just the performance that I wanted to do. I also wanted to become a dance scholar. So that's where I met that famous dance scholar, dance writer, Steve Villaruz. So he became like my Luther in my life. And he introduced me to this dance scholarship. I went to the States, studied with Sally Ann Ness, a very famous dance anthropologist, a world-renowned dance anthropologist. So those are my influences. I lucked out, Nini. I lucked out that I met so many wonderful, loving, and generous mentors, inspired. I call them inspired and inspiring individuals. So, I think those are the people. And of course, my mom was a piano teacher. She would always say, you can dance, but you should never be off the beat, you know? So it's really, I belong in that wonderful, nurturing space.
It's so uncanny because you mentioned Mrs. Corazon Inigo. She was my jazz teacher in UP many, many years ago.
Oh, she's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah. So I owe her a lot. I owe her a lot, for sure.
Now I turn the table to Helen.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for that question. So now, drum rolls, please. We are so proud and we are so honored that Patrick has chosen our event to be screening or doing the world premiere of the documentary, Am I Being Selfish? And thank you so much, Patrick. Before this goes to the public and get more and more awards, thank you for sharing this with the community first and foremost. Let's continue. Thank you, Mayrose.
His wife and his 2 young children voice by teaching ballet, teaching dance to poor children and at-risk youth like Dorothy.
Kasi nung bata pa ako, so nakikita ko lang siya sa kalye, mga ganun, fiesta-fiesta, mga competition sa street-street. So nanonood lang ako. Naano din ako, na-impress din ako. Parang gusto ko din sumayaw. So akala ko, nung natanggap ako, so practice lang, magti-train ka lang ng sayaw-sayaw. Hanggang sa tumagal ako, nag-start ako, 12 years old na ako noon. Yung hiya ko, parang nahiya na akong sobra kasi ang daming tao. Marami akong nakitang yung mga dancer na. Siyempre mas lalong akong kinabahan kasi magpe-perform na ako sa harap ng ibang tao na hindi ko nakilala. Tapos nanood pa sila mama. So ang ano ko, galingan nyo. Kasi manonood yung mga ganito, yung mga magulang nyo, ibang tao. Tapos nung narinig ko yung palakpak, wala pa akong kaalam-alam nun. Tapos sabi ko, ang sarap palang sumayaw, sabi ko gano'n. So sumasayaw pa rin ako. Hanggang sa tumatagal ako, naging teacher na po ako. Yung pagtuturo ko, binabayaran din po ako doon. May natatanggap din po ako. Hindi naman siya ganun kalaki. Yung tama lang po pang gastos. Binibigyan ako ng 175 kada turo. Wala pa akong ano nun. Wala pa akong asawa, wala pa akong anak.
Ayaw mo na?
So okay lang yun kasi ako lang. May mga nagsasabi na maghanap ka na ng ibang trabaho. Kasi ganito ganyan yung hindi mo tama-tama lang sa sinasabi ko sa sarili ko na ano ba, makasarili ba ako? Kasi yung sarili ko lang iniisip ko na yung gusto ko lang yung iniisip ko.
Tapos hanggang sa dumating yung time na gusto ko na makipaghiwalay sa kanya. Kasi nga walang nangyayari, ganun. Tapos hindi siya sumuko. Di hanggang sa dire-diretso yung niya, pagturo niya.
So ngayon, yung tinatanggap ko na ngayon is 12,000 a month.
Medyo lumaki pero hindi pa rin sapat kasi mas lalo naman dumami yung gastusin namin.
Okay. Ako okay lang ako magutom, wag lang yung dalawang anak ko tsaka siya. Kasi responsibilidad ko talaga eh. Bilang tatay. Babi na ako, kuya. So, pinipilit lang namin mag-survive na mag-utang tayo sa ganyan kasi wala eh. So, ang swerte lang namin yung may mga ganito kaming tanim or tindahan na pwedeng lapitan. Kaya may pahintulot kami dito pag wala yung... Minsan, isang beses lang ako kumakain, gabi lang. Swerte ko na, makakain ako ng 3. Minsan, 2, ganun. Kung may almusal kami, swerte na po yun.
Kaya kahit gaano ka namin gusto mag-ipon, siyempre uunahin pa ba namin yung ipon kaysa sa pagkain ng mga bata. Tama pa namin yung mama at papa niya. Kaya pag may kailangan kami.
Kasi pagka ganyan, may mga natatakbuhan kami kahit papaano.
Tulungan. Kaya mas maganda na kasama mo pa rin talaga yung pamilya sa isang lugar.
Nak, ito na yung ulam mo.
Ayoko tumalikod sa problema eh. Maharapin ko yan. Wala kasing mangyayari pag tatalikod ka lang. Mumukmuk ka lang dyan, iyakan mo lang, wala eh.
At muling gigisingin pa ng iyong halik, kahit man lang suling saglit ng buhay ko. Ang pangarap ba'y magkatotoo? Di ko na alam, muli pang mag-isa mula nang makapiling ka. Dahil ako'y umasa na lagi kang kasama, laban sa mundo ay tayo lang dalawa.
Like to announce, take this opportunity before I read my conclusion that hopefully in the summer of next year we will be able to offer for the first time a Philippine studies course, and this time it's and first time right? It's Philippine folk dance, and it's going to be in Manila and Bulacan, and it's going to be participated in by a Filipiniana dance group of the University of the Philippines, Ateneo de Manila University, Bulacan State University, the Quezon City Performing Arts Foundation, and the Bayanihan, the National Folk Dance Company of the Philippines. So I'm really hoping that that it's possible to bring students to Manila and Bulacan next year. In conclusion, as a scholar, as an artist, as a documentary filmmaker, I am committed to putting an emphasis on dance's ability to empower the marginalized. I want to illustrate that dance, as lived in the lives of its practitioners, is an incredible embodied form in understanding the complexities of race, class, ethnicity, gender, religious practices, and diasporic or transnational identities. As a Philippine studies scholar and a Filipino, I devote my energies and resources to fleshing out who Filipinos are, whether in the Philippines or in transnational elsewhere, from the point of view of dance, from their own dancing and choreographed bodies. So maraming salamat po, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that I'll have with you in a second. Okay, salamat.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again, Patrick. So I think now we have come to the part where we want to have the conversation, really. I believe, so Nini is gonna be joining me, and we will be sharing or reading some of the questions that we have from our audience. So I believe we have one question actually, Patrick, in the chat. Let me just go back there. I think this is from Lady Flor Partosa. So she's asked, I'm curious how your experience as a dance practitioner or researcher has influenced your approach or eye on documentary filmmaking. So I guess kung paano nagta-translate two different forms of art, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm not. I'm not really I didn't go to film school. My PhD is in dance anthropology, and obviously I'm a dancer. But I was exposed. So I've so fortunate that I've been exposed to documentary filmmaking even when I was at UP. But then I realized that there are a lot of transferable skills from dance to documentary filmmaking, because when you're a dancer, you're really trained how to choreograph and how to work with a space. And so I took advantage of that. I took advantage of when people will exit, when people will enter. I am very sensitive to space. And I again, I'm fortunate because my training was in English. And so I took a lot of literature classes. So I'm also, in many ways, I was trained from the get-go how to do literary analysis. And I love reading, I love literature. And so I think the combination of my dance training, my exposure to filmmaking at quite a young age, actually, I was only in my 20s, early 20s, and then also my training in English. And of course, later on, my PhD in anthropology, where I was really exposed to issues of representation, all these things, cultural studies understood broadly, really helped me to become nuanced, right, in my understanding of documentary film and the critical role of storytelling, right, in bringing out social issues, right, but without forcing the issues, but let the narrative organically flow, and let the dancing show that dancing is intimately linked to social justice issues like poverty, for example. And in the bigger film that I'm doing with A Will to Dream, it's about like teenage pregnancy and how can dance really help, insulate dancers from teenage pregnancy, from vices. So that's really my role. I mean, but to Lady Flor's question, definitely dance helped me so much in many ways, because I'm sensitive to movement.
and I'm sensitive to space and time. Because you have to know. I mean, when you're a dancer, you have to be very set. You're only given so much time, and in filmmaking, it's like that too. Kasi, di ba, if it's a short documentary, you're only given 10 minutes. How are you going to pack 10 minutes, and tell a very good story, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I lacked out, right, in all my backgrounds.
Thank you, Patrick. That's an interesting insight, actually, when you said the choreography is translating from the dance to the choreography of making a film.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Nini, I think we have another question. Oops, you're still muted.
Mindful of Canada's diversity and also art as something that encompasses different races or even different cultures. How do you how does the Canadian audience perceive Philippine dance?
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I mean, Nini, that's a very interesting and a very broad question. But actually I can answer it because it's based on my Luz Viminda.
Yes.
Yeah, based on my Luz Viminda. So Luz Viminda was a big celebration for Canada 150.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, as a way to intervene in many ways, issues around representation. I think there's a question actually who owns these folk dances. I wanted to engage in that conversation by asking non-Filipinos to perform Philippine folk dance as an opportunity for cross-cultural understanding, right? So because I believe, as an educator, that one of the best ways to create a productive this conversation around who we are is through dance, right? I mean, it's like food. How do you know one's culture? Who are the Filipinos? Then say, yeah, well, one way is through food. And my response is through dance. If you ask me, who are the Aklanons?
Yeah.
Then say, why don't you go to the Atihan, right? And participate in the Atihan. Then that becomes a window into who the Aklanons are. So my response too is that who are the Filipinos? One of the best ways to understand that is not only to watch dance, but also to embody and perform dance.
So it's an experiential thing more than just something that you see or something that you watch.
Yeah, and Nini, that's a very different engagement.
Yeah.
As you know, I mean, if you did jazz, right? I mean, it's a different engagement when you're watching from doing, right? So I think that's kind of, because where we are in the world, that's kind of my goal here, is to really contribute to a positive image of who the Filipinos are, but of course from my art form, which is dance. And I want to that Philippine dance is not only for Filipinos, but also for the larger Canadian public, right?
Very well.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another very interesting question here from Gretchen Mangahas, who's actually our popcom. She's helped very much with us promoting this event, the 2 events in the summer. So here goes, Patrick. Does staging folk dances sometimes misappropriate the culture of the community who rightfully owns the dance? How can this be avoided?
Excellent.
So I guess you alluded to that in your the Atis.
Yeah, another excellent question. Following up. Yeah, I think my when you put something on stage, naturally, inevitably, there will be changes, right? I mean, if you're going to ask me, if for example, when my brother and I did research with the Ibatans in Batanes, right? So their fandango there is a social form. They do it during fiestas. And so there's no time limitation because it's ongoing. However, when you bring it to Manila and you stage it, you cannot do it the way it is. So, but Gretchen's question, excellent question, brings to the idea of what's the ethics behind staging. And that's a very anthropological question. My answer to that is that you have to be responsible in knowing really where the dances originated from. When you teach it to students in Manila, let's say, or in Canada, it's your obligation to tell them this dance is a social dance. It's performed in Batanes by the Ibatans and so on. So you have to give as much context as possible. And because of the gift of the internet, and this is what happened when I did this with my brother when I was a visiting professor at UP, is that he showed the staging of that dance to the Ibatans, and they vetted it. So they know what you're doing with their dances, right? So that I think that the key to this question is creating an active dialogue. You just don't parachute in. You don't go there, get their dance, and then they don't know what you did with their dances. Because at the end of the day, right, they should be the ones who should determine how their dances are done. And then you explain, well, these movements have to be bigger because the stage is bigger. We have to cut. We have to cut it in this portion because we're only given 5 minutes. Is that okay with you? But it's a dialogue. Yeah. It's a dialogue. But you have to be very forthcoming in saying that this is the structure of the performance.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very important. I like what you had mentioned, that it's a dialogue. It's a learning process, right? So as much as we learn the indigenous or folk dances, they also learn about how their traditional dances are being interpreted, right? And they are part of that consultation and recognition as well.
Yeah, and what's funny, Helen, is that when they saw the staging that Filipiniana did in Manila, they said, could we actually also use this staging? Because sometimes they're asked to go to festivals and they're only given a short time. So in a way, it was a gift to them that this is how you could stage that.
I love that. I love that knowledge sharing, definitely, and knowledge exchange on both sides. Thank you so much. Nini, I think you have, so I think we have time for 2 more questions, perhaps. I don't know. I'm going to check the chat. But Nini, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few questions. No, would you agree, Professor Alcedo, that dancers are among the least paid among the performing artists? How can their lot be improved? And what incentives do you know that are existing in Canada for dancers or performers that can be benchmarked in the Philippines? Because we have crafted. There is a creative industry roadmap in the Philippines, and the performing arts and dance is part of the whole creative industry.
Correct. Well, I think it's changing a bit. As far as I know, for example, even in the world of the Quezon City performing arts, when they perform, for example, at 5-star hotels, they really have a set price for perform, and which is great because then they're treated as professionals. So I think that's a change that I'm seeing, that they're treated as professionals. You have to give them, if you're gonna ask for a 30-minute show and it's going to be at Manila Hotel, there you have to pay this much money. And I'm 100% in support of that. Number 2, here in Canada, in this part of the world, which I actually want to introduce in the Philippines, is that dancers here are so good at applying for grants. They're very good at applying, and they know, because we have the Toronto Arts Council, we have the Ontario Arts Council, or the Canada Council for the Arts. In fact, because I was the graduate program director for many years at York for dance, our first workshop for our dance students is how to win grants. That's a skill. That's a skill that I think you should know as a dancer, aside from the actual dancing. You should also know how to write and how to convince granting bodies that your art is worthy of funding. But that's a skill though. So somebody has to teach that. So I want to do I kind of like want to do that for the Philippines. There's the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, and in my own way, and I'm very proud to say, like for example, Saint Scholastica and Poveda are inspired by this film, so they're going to fundraise for the Quezon City Performing Arts. So, I think for scholars like myself, I have to stay active in putting a spotlight on the lives of dancers, so that the public can understand that they need support, right? Need support, and hopefully that will grow and that will organically multiply.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you, Nini.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question I have here is asking, what are your plans, Patrick, after the pandemic, so post-pandemic, in terms of your dance and film projects?
Well, quite a lot. I've been at home, so editing. But I know, but really, I want to go around Canada, and I want to do research among the Filipino population, Filipino immigrants, and to look at their dance practices. So that's one. Because my work has been, because because of my previous grant, it had to be focused only on Ontario. But this current grant that I have allows me to really go around Canada. So I want to do that. And then to go back to the Philippines and to do research outside Manila and Aklan, because I've done that already. So I want, for example, to go to the Cordillera. I want to go to Mindanao, for example, maybe Davao. I have a colleague there who's a dancer. So I want to really broaden the scope of my research towards places that I have never been to. Because then again, that's a way of showing that dance exists all over, right? And they are not one dance is more important than the other. They're all important. And I want to show that.
Right. I am conscious of the time, but there is one small question. So let's do this as a challenge, Patrick. Please answer this in 1 minute or less than 1 minute. What is your most favorite Philippine folk dance?
Oh my goodness, that's very difficult.
Do you have to be careful in answering this?
Okay. Because I was a tinikling dancer for Filipiniana. Then I'm gonna say tinikling because I can with my eyes.
Great. Thank you so much. I know there are a few more questions, but Patrick, if we may, can we share your email or contact address
I'll
to
put it in the chat. patrickalcedo@gmail.com. Okay, so I think that's a better, I'll put it here for everyone.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear from them. There you go.
Thank you so much. So now I want to call on our president, Miss Agnes Manasan. Agnes, to share the certificate of recognition or appreciation for Patrick.
Hi, Patrick. Before I read the certificate, I just wanted to let you know that we are so proud of you being a Filipino immigrant in Canada, and being at the University of the Philippines alumnus. We are so proud of what you have accomplished at such a young age. We are really inspired by you, and I hope that many young kids, the kids of Filipinos will be follow your footsteps and be inspired with what you have done. So, there's so many things that I was so touched by your presentation. It reminded me of my love for dance. And I think one of the things that we have in common is that, we both were members of the Filipiniana dance troupe, although I was there ahead of you. I was there in the early 70s, but I was also in the Filipino, the dance troupe in Philippine. So without that, I'd like to thank you very much and present to you the Certificate of Appreciation. The University of the Philippines Alumni Association of Toronto award the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Patrick Alcedo for his valuable contribution as speaker on embodied and embodying research through the years, the Atihan Festival, Philippine folk dance, and documentary filmmaking. During the UPAT Culture and History Talks as part of the quincentennial commemorations for the Filipino community in Canada, given this 5th day of August 2021 in Toronto, Canada. Agnes Manasan, President. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And yes, thank you.
Thanks, Agnes. Congratulations, Patrick. Now, I would like to request our colleagues from the consulate. I think they would like to present as well your Quincentennial Award, Patrick. Mr. Robles and Conjen Castro, I think we have made you co-host.
Yes, Reyes.
Mr. Reyes, I'm so sorry.
Mr. Reyes is the co-host, so he can screen share.
Yeah, you can screen share.
No, as a matter of courtesy to UPAEP, I will not yet.
It's okay.
No,
you can go ahead.
I was explaining as a matter of courtesy to UPAEP, I should read first the award of UPAEP. Later, I will share, but it was unfortunately shown. So, with the kind permission of our friends and from UPAEP and our participants tonight, with your kind indulgence, I will read the citation to the UPAEP. As you may have known, UPAEP is one of our quincentennial awardees. Senator Rizal of the Philippine Consulate General in Toronto awards this quincentennial award to the University of the Philippines Alumni Association of Toronto through its president, Ms. Agnes Manasan, in recognition of the association's invaluable effort and activities to foster unity among the Filipino community and continued support to the Philippine Consulate General in Toronto on the occasion of the celebrations of the 123rd anniversary of Philippine independence and Filipino Heritage Month and the quincentennial commemorations in the Philippines. The award was given last 12th day of June 2021 in the city of Toronto. Congratulations to the UPAEP. Now, before I show the photo again with Dr. Alcedo, I would like to thank him for his outstanding and excellent presentation tonight. I was, as one of his admirers, I was astonished of what he had shown tonight. No, I thought I have already seen his best works, but hindi pa pala. He had so much to show, and you made our country proud, Dr. Alcedo. So, without further ado, this was the photo taken when we gave him the Quincentennial Award plaque last July 9, 2021. So, congratulations to both of you. Okay, thank you. Salamat. Now, I would like to congratulations and thank you to both the UPAEP and Dr. Patrick Alcedo. You have been our most reliable partners, especially at this time of the pandemic. We ran after you at the height, most especially when everything seems was quiet at the time, when everybody was, in their house, and we reached out to you, and you did not fail us. we accompanied us through so many webinars in reaching out to our kababayans. Thank you so much for bringing Philippine culture and the arts closer to our kababayan, especially the young and growing generations of Filipino Canadians. Maraming salamat to UPAET and Dr. Alcedo. Mabuhay, and may your tribe continue to grow. Maraming salamat po.
Can I say a few things? I just wanted to thank and proudly accept the award, the Quincentennial Award. It's given to UP Alumni Association of Toronto, but I'd like also to acknowledge that this award belongs to the former presidents and council members of current and past members of the UPAT Council. So this really, we'll appreciate it. This is given to us. And I'd like also to thank the ambassador for being with us tonight, and also you, Conjen, for being with us and being a partner of this program. But, I just wanted to say a few words because I failed to acknowledge the ambassador when I first gave my welcome remarks.
Thank you so much. And now I'd like to introduce the chair of the Education and Awareness Committee of the UPAAT, Dr. Mayros Salvador.
Thank you so much, Helen. Good evening, everyone. We're running a bit late, so this is going to be short. So this wraps up our program for today. Thank you very much again to His Excellency Rodolfo Robles and Conjen Orantes Castro for joining us. And thank you so much to all our attendees and to our presenter, Dr. Patrick Alcedo. That was amazing. I am pretty sure that everyone will agree that we all enjoyed your presentation and are very, very inspired. For me, I've always wanted to attend the Atihan, and your presentation made me just want to go there. I travel around the Philippines every year before the pandemic, and so that's something that I'd like to do next time I go back. So thank you for sharing. Your talk allowed us to appreciate the richness and diversity in the Philippines, and the short docs, they were beautiful and very moving, and I will definitely look for the other films and will watch them. Thank you to the UPAAT Education and Awareness Committee. This was organized by Helen and Trade Commissioner Nini Alvaro. They spearheaded that, and Agnes Manasan, our president, Gretchen Mangajas, and Diana Roldan, and myself supported them. Our next event, and you will get an email from me about this, is on August 26th, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern EST, and it will be about food from the Philippines. So make sure to bring your own snacks, as I'm sure that this will be mouth-watering. Or dinner, or breakfast. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, everyone, again. And have a good night, have a good day, and thank you so much, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. See you on the 26th. Same
All right.
time.
Thank you.
Same Zoom. Same time, same Zoom.
Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Patrick.
Conjen. Thank you, Ambassador
Conjen. Thank
Robles.
you, Ambassador.
And
Thank you po.
everybody.
Congratulations to everybody.
And thank you to your staff also, Conjen. They've been very helpful to us, and really we work very well collaboratively. And Patrick, I can say thank you enough to you. Thank you.
Very, very informative.
Salamat po, Dr. Patrick.
Yeah,
Salamat.
anytime po. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick.
Bye.
This is Nina Churchill. Thank you.
Bye.
I got this program from Felice.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
and I'm stranded in Washington, D.C. I should be in Manila, but I am not able to travel, so I'm here. So thank you very much, Patrick. It's been a long time since I last saw you, and I have enjoyed your performance again. Thank you to the Toronto UP Alumni Association. I am also an alumna of UP, former faculty member of the history department. I don't know if any of you were in my classes, Maybe, but
Maybe. What year was that?
history. I was in history.
History.
Hindi kayo
yes.
pwedeng mag-graduate kung wala kayong history.
Of course. Of course. Hindi pwede.
Anyway, thank you very much. Wonderful program, and I will join you on the 26th.
Thank you.
Definitely.
We look forward
Munti ko
to
nang-
seeing you
munti ko
there.
nang hindi mahina kasi ako sa techie eh. Nawala yung aking yung aking icon ng Zoom. Nako, sabi ko lagot. But I was able to connect. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you. We
See you
will be
next
sending
time.
reminders
Yeah.
for the next event.
Yeah, please. That would be nice. Yeah, that would be nice. But although Felice has already said it to me, and I will be there. Felice is a very good friend, kababayan. Pareho kaming Cavite. Actually, from the same family.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Patrick and
Thank you.
everybody take care.
Thank
Take your
you.
mask all the
Thank
time.
you for joining us.
Social distance, wala mo ng mga sosyalan, okay? Wala mo ng mga malling.
Nag-uumpisa na kami
Because, mahirap ang buhay ngayon. Okay. Thank
Nag-uumpisa
you.
na kami
Thank you
mag-social
very
dito.
much.
Sa Toronto,
Okay.
we're starting. So
Okay.
anyway, maraming salamat. And hopefully we can have more projects together. And Conjen, maraming salamat sa inyo at sa staff mo. They have been very helpful and in us working together. So we're looking forward to more collaborative partnership with you. Thank you.
Opo, thank you din po.
Okay. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you,
Good night.
Patrick.
Ayaw
Congratulations
pa
again.
yata natin umalis.
Bakit meron bang picture? Meron bang group photo? Hindi nakalimutan yata dati mag-group photo.
Yeah.
Kanina.
Okay.
Let's do
Well, we can do it now.
Okay.
Open
Okay.
your
Open. Oo.
Can everybody?
Sana pala kanina,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody.
It's
I hope everybody opens their cameras.
Sure. Yeah, their cameras.
Want to see you.
Please, join us in this
Everyone,
picture.
please.
Meron bang mga nanditong nag-join from the Philippines University of sa UP? Ay, Goddess Amparo. Thank you for
Hi.
joining us. We'd like to see people from the Philippines.
Is Ida still around? Ida Lucila?
Oh, she was here earlier.
Yeah, I saw her.
I saw her. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the cultural officer of the consulate, Cecil, show yourself.
Cecil.
Cecil.
That's Cecil.
Yeah. May DepEd Bulacan pa, si Rihanna Tuazon. Wow, we're all over the world. I'm so happy that, we had actually a big registration, but unfortunately, I guess because of the time difference, not very many people were able to log in, people who registered with us. But anyway, it's okay. Hopefully they'll join us in the next session we have in August 26th. And talking with Patrick. we have
Okay,
some,
everybody. Shall we
okay.
take now one or
Okay.
two?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody have your videos on. Okay.
Miriam,
One,
and the others to turn on
3,
your...
2, 1. Okay, I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. So have a nice sleep or breakfast or whatever it is, wherever you are. And have a wonderful day. All right?
Thank you all. Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you all.
Good night.
Bye.